ain't going back. Not gonna buy into all that. Hey, hey, ain't gonna hide. Gonna let all the fears slide. Got Mother Nature is on my side. Got all of the loving growing inside.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the New Now. I'm delighted to have Max Igan back with us, and he has graciously decided to join us again today to continue our conversation. We did Unlock Your Life previously, and today we're going to look at imagination and freedom, how to use it, what it can mean to you, where it can take you, and perhaps the blocks therein. Max, hello.
Nice to be here again, brother. Thanks for having me on.
So what do you think about imagination in relation to freedom, in relation to your life? How does that work for you? What do you think you could maybe share with some people in relation to what has and has not been fortuitous by working that way?
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to, the power of imagination it's just very powerful stuff. I mean, the power of our minds to create is something beyond what most people would believe. And so it's important to, even when looking at what we're facing in the world today, I've often said to people, I can see a golden age at the end of the tunnel. I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's important to keep a focus on that, because if you focus too much on the negativity, that's what you attract into your life. And we've got a lot of negative stuff happening in our lives at the moment. So you've got to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And imagine what the world's going to be once we've gotten rid of this totalitarian system, once all the stupid people are gone, once this control mechanism has been brought down, what it's going to be like then, and what sort of a world you would like to be living in. I mean, it does help. It really does help. You know, the power of our emotion to create and manifest is just next level. People wouldn't even believe it to be true. So I think it's incredibly important, brother. You've got to realize that it's always darkest before the dawn. And I'm not being defeatist, and I'm not telling people that they shouldn't act and just to focus on the good and everything bad's going to go away. No, you've got to participate in this world, but you've got to be participating for the right reasons. And if it comes down to a point where you've got to fight, well, fight for love, not for hate, you know, and fight to create that better world and see what it is you're creating, envision what it is you want to create, and move towards that. And I think it does help, brother. It really does help, especially in these times.
For sure. I found, imagination is what brings me through my days. For sure. I'll imagine happiness. I'll imagine a good day. I'll imagine, even a nice dinner at the end of the day when things are crazy, and, then work from there. And I've seen that, when I'm in that positive place, I don't want to sound trite or woo-woo, but it's true. When you're in that positive place and you are imagining good things for yourself and you put yourself in those situations, they do tend to work out.
It does happen, and it's important. I mean, that's why they're putting us in so much negativity. They want people all focused on how terrible the world is going and how terrible it's going to be, when it doesn't really have to be that way. I mean, I can look at this as a cleansing, the great revealing, the apocalypse. That's what they're revealing. The control mechanism becomes completely clear and apparent for everybody to see. The whole problem at the moment is a loss of self. It's a loss of belief in ourselves, a loss of our own personal power. We've forgotten who and what we are. And this is giving us an opportunity to rediscover that. So if you look at it that way, you can see it as a very positive time. It's a time we've been waiting for, a time when the entire mechanism that's been controlling us from behind the shadows is now completely exposed, which gives us the ability to walk away from it and to do something else. So, but you can't do that unless you're aware that it's there. We've been trying to tell people it's there for decades, but nobody believed us. Well, now here it is. It's right in your face. So it's a huge opportunity if you look at it that way. It's one of the greatest opportunities for freedom we've ever had, because now you can see the system for what it is. So, yeah, it's important to look at it that way, I think, brother.
I would agree. Just walking down the street, you can see what's real as far as loving opportunities go, and you can see what's real as far as fearful opportunities go. And it's pretty easy to tell the difference these days, because there just seem to be very many gray areas as far as what's loving and what's not, and what's healthy and what's not. If your if your intelligence is working, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting times, brother. Interesting times. You really can't deny it anymore. You can't deny what's happening. But you can't, like I said, you can't be so focused on the negative. You've got to see it as a time of opportunity. yeah, you just do. I mean, we needed this to happen, really, in some ways. I mean, it would have been nice if it was a little bit more gentle, but if you can think of the birth of a new world, birth is always a painful process. So that's kind of what's happening at the moment. We're birthing a new world, but this old one has to completely break down. And the reason it's so intense is because they're in fear. I mean, they're in fear that they're losing their control, they're losing their grip, and so they've got to push it as hard as they can to try to squash human consciousness down. But I don't think human consciousness will be squashed. I think it's going to get pretty ugly, and we're in for a pretty rough time in the next year or so. But through it, I think we will come through the other side, and we will be better for it.
I'm finding, I can talk about myself, and generally, maybe I've seen it everyone else. If I'm left alone, I can be lazy. I can find the best in things and just go that way. I can, if something is kind of good, I've looked at my life and I've noticed if things have been a little better, whether it was my family life, my old relationships, my old living situations, my old jobs, I might have gotten stuck. As a loving man, if there was love around me, I would have stayed. But things always got just a little too ugly for me, in the various situations of my life. A little unloving, is the best way I'll put it, instead of ugly. And that is always what forced me to keep moving. And I think, as Max said, in this day and age, it seems to me that the unloving forces on the planet are very obvious, right? And if you have your heart working in the right way, you can't in good consciousness work in harming, what you believe to be yourself or your friends or your family or your community, and, for a buck or for a hamburger or for whatever it is they're offering you, so that you, either harm yourself or harm others.
Yeah. It doesn't make a lot of sense, all the stuff they're wanting to do. But it's an opportunity, brother. Like I've said, it's an opportunity, and the division in society is something that's kind of freaky as well. I mean, you're really seeing the stark divisiveness of all of this, the stark divisiveness between the sheeple and the asleep. The people, who you really never would have thought would have succumbed to this as easily as they have. The anger that they're showing now. Society is kind of splitting in two through all this, and it's kind of freaky to see. But yeah, I mean, it's the great revealing, brother, the great apocalypse. This is the moment we've been waiting for, and we are the ones we've been waiting for. So it's what we're going to do with it. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen over the next year. And in a way, it's kind of good to be here for the big show. I mean, we've been researching and investigating this for our whole lives, and waiting for this moment to happen, and now it's here. It's going to be really interesting to see where the world goes and whether human consciousness is going to rise to the occasion. And I've even got to wonder if the people that are doing this are even human. I mean, how many humans do you know would act in this way? Some of the stuff we're seeing here in Australia, the level of violence and stuff, it's just through the roof. And you've got to wonder where these people come from. I look at what's happening in Victoria. This is actually even Victoria saying. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting future, brother. And for the first time, I mean, I can't really predict. Normally, I've been able to predict where we're going to go, and I've been able to call things out for, and know what they're going to do. But at the moment, things are so unpredictable. I just don't know where it's going to go from one moment to the next. It's kind of freaky.
I mean, it's really interesting that you and I seem to be on a similar wavelength. I was just about to ask the question before you brought it up. What are your opinions on non-human awareness, let's say, on the planet, and what's going on in that way in relation to, we'll call them current affairs and things like that? I mean, I have my opinions. I've been watching things. It's almost the non-human awareness that started me on this path 20, 30 years ago, when I read the Castaneda books and took my feelings from there, studying myself inside and outside. And I was always wanting to bring that up with you, Max. Like I know you've had your experiences over the years.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got to wonder whether it's non-human, whether it's AI. I often wonder whether AI is already in control here, whether AI has been in control for a long time, and it's AI moving its further into the mainframe. A lot of it seems like, I mean, I don't think any of it's cycled at the old concept of the scrying mirrors and the TVs and everything. Yeah, I mean, CERN, there's a lot to figure out, but I wouldn't be surprised if AI is already in control, because what they're doing, I mean, they're creating a system that's going to be completely AI controlled. And eventually, with what's going on, the level of control that they're bringing in through algorithms and stuff. I mean, just look at the censorship on the internet now. Soon, you won't even need government. You won't need state governments or anything. All you need is a figurehead, like the figurehead of the prime minister or the president. The AI will determine everything. The AI will know what people are doing, where they're going. It will give people social credit scores depending on their activities and what their thoughts are, what they're thinking. It knows what all their social media posts are. And if you get low on credit points, you don't even have to go to trial. The AI already knows what your punishment will be because of what your social credit score is. The AI can alert the police. The police can just come and pick you up. So all you're going to need is a figurehead prime minister or president and the police force to enforce the will of the AI. And then the people below that who are just basically doing what they're told and all living in this slavery system. That's where it's going. And in that situation, everybody becomes redundant. Everybody, all the politicians, the state governments, all these people, the bankers, everybody, they all become redundant and it all gets turned over to AI. So all the people who created this control mechanism aren't safe from it either. They thought they were, but they're not. And what's motivated them to do it is money. You know, you see the income over and they see the dollar signs. They think the grid as well. You'll be controlled by AI as well. If you're thinking outside the box or doing the wrong thing, the AI won't determine, it won't differentiate between a Rothschild and a Smith. It isn't going to care. You're just another human to it. So I think that's a lot of what's going on here. You know, when people talk about aliens and all that sort of stuff, that's what I think is happening. It's the AI, and that is the predator mind, if you want, that Castaneda talked about. You know, and you have been driven as an avatar and be a predator mind. If you had someone controlling you from outside the game, sort of thing. Wouldn't that be similar to a predator mind? Is that really what's going on? I mean, I just wonder. I speculate on all this sort of stuff.
I mean, who do you think maybe is programming the AI? I mean, if you go beyond, let's say, humanity, like you said, the predator mind, Castaneda, I felt that it was non-human, non-human interference from wherever that happened to came from. What do you think, and who do you think is actually, doing the background on the AI?
Good question. Could be us. It could be us. It could be a form of soul purification. I mean, it could be where the concept of suspect. It could be us. We could be here in our controlling ourselves in our own simulation in order to. That's what all of this seems like. It seems soul. In this reality. It wouldn't surprise me if that's what it's all about.
I'd heard a long time ago, or actually not even so long ago, that TV was originally invented to talk to spirits. Supposedly, the spinning behind, when they used to have a station identification, back at the beginning, you and I can both probably remember TV when we used to watch it. It would go off the air at around 11 o'clock. The patterns meant something, and supposedly that was a way to hypnotize people, get inside their mind, and to plant suggestions. I mean, to me, it's obvious that as we, let's say, turn this back to imagination, what you imagine, you make real. And if TV, cell phones, what have you, are telling you 24 hours a day to imagine something bad or to imagine a cage for yourself, it seems that's what people are imagining.
Well, yeah, as well. Yeah, I mean, TV, even entertainment, the word it's all mind control, to control the mind, to hold the mind. Television, I mean, it's programmed our whole reality. That's why they call them programs. You look at the world now compared to what it was before television was invented. I believe in everything we've seen on the TV. They put out the film, there was a film came out in the 1950s called The Divorce. Late 1950s, or the Divorce film came out because it made divorce fashionable. So it's an incredible influence on our reality. And if they put all these dystopian movies on there and all this stuff, I mean, the amount of cop shows and stuff they've told you the cops are the good guys throughout the history of television. We must respect the police. They're Gotham's finest and all that sort of stuff. New York's finest. These are of the world. And but we've believed it all. We've been led into this reality, and we've just let it all happen because our television's told us this is what reality is, and so we just believe it and we do it. It's crazy. I've said to people, switch off your television and throw away your smartphones. If people threw away their smartphones, this whole COVID thing couldn't be happening. Contact tracing, none of this could happen without down all the other lines of communication. And so you've just got everything on your phone now. What they did in Melbourne 3 or 4 days ago was they shut down the 4G. No live streaming could come out. It was a complete media blackout over Victoria 3 or 4 days ago, which gives the police the ability to do anything they wanted. What's going on, leading us into the technology we've got now. It's been this gradual process, and now they've got people in a position where you're completely dependent upon the technology, and then they can lock you out of everything just incredibly easily. People don't even have basic life skills. They don't have basic communication skills anymore. So it's crazy. That's what they've done. And through the economic system, they've got people enslaved to money. So everyone's so worried about their job, losing their job, which means they're going to comply with anything the government wants them to do. All these lockdowns and all this shit they're doing now. It was a guy managed to talk to one of the cops, one of the riot cops through this, and I'd need to put food on the table. It's just the way it is. My wife's lost her job because of the lockdowns, and I'm not skilled thing else, life skills, removed us of our ability to even remember what it means to be human. And it's completely led us into this fabricated world that we're living in now,
Well, what do we do about it? I think that's what this comes down to. So let's say it's aliens, let's say it's UFOs, let's say it's AI, let's say it's, it's just clever people at the top. I mean, it doesn't really matter that are, as you say, programming your reality. And I would agree with you. I've seen nothing but cop shows or detective novels that tell you police are doing good and searching mass murderers and looking after someone that wants to steal your wife or your babies or take away your whatevers. And, obviously I've traveled the world as you have, and I've seen mostly people are nice, or, they used to be. Mostly people want to live and let live. Mostly people, are not homicidal mass murderers, but, then there are the psychopaths that are running things, obviously, by the definition of what a psychopath is. And, what do you feel a person in this day and age, seeing what the police officer told you about putting food on the table, what you're seeing in Australia, and what we've seen in the rest of the world, what can people do, let's say maybe in relation to their imagination and their life choices and what's in front of them, to help go one way instead of the other, as you say, in this splitting of society?
Well, stop complying with their own slavery would be a good part, a good start. We have to try to find some way of reaching these police officers and person as well. We're trying to get them outside. I mean, a lot of them just leave their hands tied. We've been brought about in any society is from the failure of order followers to disobey illegal commands and corrupt commands. If we could get these guys to break ranks and some sort of a coup, and our governments need to be taken out of this. Fortunately, you can't just take down the governments and revert to a system of self-governance, because people aren't prepared for it. They're not, unfortunately, back to a point where they didn't need it. But we need the order followers to break ranks. We've got to find a way of appealing to the police, appealing to the people who uphold the law in our society, to do what they're telling them to do. They employ people that have only got IQs of 102. I mean, you can score too high on the aptitude test in the police force, because they don't want people who can think too clearly. They just want people who will help people. They want to protect people. And they've been turned against the people. That's the biggest problems we face as the police. I mean, as much as the government is out of control, it's the police need to break more complicit than the government, because they're the ones who are selling the lie to the people. You know, one good report from the mainstream media could change everything, but pay from them. So, you know, it's to support them and help them. Shop at businesses that don't have QR codes, and you know, all of that sort of stuff. You know, step outside of the, if you comply a little bit, you cannot give them one single inch. You just got to stand your ground against this and be prepared to face infinity without flinching, if that's what it comes to. You know, but be supporting you. Call it out for what it is. Go to council meetings, ask the right questions, and appeal to the police to stand with the people. Don't put yourself against the police, because if you do, I mean, they've got all the armor and all the guns, and you know, they expect, like Command tells that everyone mindset around, because ultimately we need these people on our side. These are the ones who could actually change the direction the government is going, if we can find some way of reaching them. Connection bad, huh?
Yeah, the connection's jumping around a bit. I mean, it's such an interesting conversation. I figure people will have to go through. Maybe AI is trying to get in the way of our chat here. You know, it seems like, you know, I've seen that a few times whenever you start talking about something close to the bone, so to speak. Sometimes the connection does start jumping around. So I hope people can forgive the connection and the bouncing. It doesn't seem to me anything's been missed. You know, I'll give us an update whenever Max has started jumping. The words seem to catch up right afterwards. So if you,
yeah, it's funny. It's funny how that works. You've locked up.
Well, now you seem to be all right again, moving away, moving in normal speed, more or less.
Okay.
So Max, how would you say people can reach the police or reach the powers that be, or act in such a way? Like you said, I know confrontation.
Okay. Maybe you can edit the jumpy bits out. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. We've had one cop here in Australia and speak for the police. If you know people who know cops, if you've got cops in your family, I mean, it's very difficult to just go to the police station and talk to the police. They don't want to know about it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've been trying for years to reach these people. If someone's got a good suggestion, I'm totally open to it. I mean, I know people who've got cops in their family. So I kind of try to get to know those families, and hopefully they will talk to their sons and daughters, and you know, maybe the word will spread from the inside the force. I mean, I've heard that there's at least 30% of the cops here in Queensland don't want to have the jab. So, you know, those people need to know that there are people out there in society who support them. Know how to boys club, and they're just in the club. Once they put the uniform on, they put all the sigils on, they're just in the club. That's the difficult part. It is a really, really difficult situation we find ourselves in. I mean, if people simply stopped complying and all opened their businesses and just stopped doing what they're told, I don't think there's anything the police could do. I don't think there's anything the government could do. If the entire society just did it, well, the police, there's got to be a point where they go, well, hang on, you know, we were employed to uphold the law. The entire country here is now saying we should be questioning the government. You know, maybe it's, but unfortunately, many of them simply aren't too bright, and you know, they're viewing the citizenry as the enemy now. You know, anybody who has uniform is potentially the enemy, because they could be spread. But then, you know, a lot of the cops know it's fake. A lot of them know it's not real. So, you know, we're just going to have to keep pushing, brother, and keep just holding our ground and stand strong as you know, powerful, peaceful human beings. And eventually some of the cops might just have enough and say, look, I just can't do this anymore. I can't go and terrorize innocent people anymore. I'm really waiting to see one of them break ranks. You know, like when they're up there in the big line of stormtroopers, just see one of them put down your shield, take your helmet off, take your body armor off, and go and stand with the people. I'd love to see that. I think when one of them does that, you're going to find hundreds of them break ranks with them.
You know what? Well, you mentioned in some ways, maybe I agree with you. I mean, I used to be a complete anarchist, let's say, meaning no rulers, no followers, no slaves. And as you say, though, society may be at a point where just dumping everything into their laps is kind of like giving the keys to the candy store to children. What do you think in relation to what could come afterwards? The word benevolent dictator comes to mind, or the selfless running the show, or things like that. I mean, let's imagine together, since we talk about imagination, let's say the police do put down their shields, and what could come next? How would you feel the world could develop into something beautiful, beyond the current craziness?
Well, we've got to replace this government with some people of integrity, and we've got to lead ourselves back to a point of safety. And like you say, I mean, anarchist is great. I mean, no government, no rules, everyone self-governs. This would be the way to go, but it's a process. It's been, you've taken 50 to 100 years to get us to this point, probably longer, to get us to this point where we've lost all of our life skills. Most people can't even grow a seed. They don't even know how to use a tape measure. They can't do anything for themselves. So unfortunately, they need government. They need to be re-educated in what it means to be a human. If you were to simply pull down the government now and turn it back to anarchy, millions upon millions of people would die because they wouldn't be able to look after themselves. They don't know how to look after themselves. So it's a process. You've got to replace this system with people of integrity who are going to gradually reduce the size of government and lead us back to a point where people can govern themselves, get government smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, all you really need is people there to manage infrastructure for you. Make sure the rubbish is picked up, make sure that the ports work and the roads are fixed up, and make sure things function properly. That's really all you need government for. Not all of the stuff they do at the moment, but it's a process. You can't just go to a point of anarchy because people aren't ready for it. I mean, you need to replace the education system with something decent and educate people in what it means to be human again, not train people to be a functional little cog in the big machine. Yeah, benevolent dictator would be great. I'd make a great dictator, but I don't want the gig, So, but that's the thing as well, you'd almost need a dictator to do it, because in the current political system, if you got someone in there who wanted to do the right thing, they'd put so much red tape in front of him that there's no way he'd be able to get anything done. So you'd almost need a dictator to do it, a benevolent dictator who's going to lead the world back to a point of safety and put certain mechanisms in place so government cannot be overtaken the way it's been now. So, I mean, what that would look like, I don't know, but it's got to start from us changing our heart space. It's got to start from us saying, hey, look, I have value. I don't have to do any of this stuff that you said. And everybody has as much value as me. We're all in this together. And we could actually change the direction the world's going if we stopped complying with wrong behavior and stepped into our moral compass and just said, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do anything which causes us to step outside our moral compass. Simple as that. Which is kind of tricky the way they've done this with the pandemic, because a lot of the sleeping masses out there believe they are in their moral compass by wearing a mask and upholding all this stuff the government's saying for the greater good of the community. So it's kind of, you got to look at how they played it. They're very, very clever the way they played this, because they're completely destroying people's lives and people's healths and people's society, doing everything they can to destroy our health, like wearing masks and social distancing, isolation, destroying us physically, destroying us psychologically, everything. But they're doing it under the claim that it's for the greater good to improve the health of society. So, people are basically good and they want to do good things. So they've appealed to people's morality in order to get them to destroy themselves. Very clever the way they've done it. Very clever, incredibly insidious. And you've got all these, social justice warriors out there attacking anybody who just is a high and healthy consider the life. And they've been the people. Done it. Really clever.
Maybe I guess something that could be put on the table, something I've considered for a while is that, a lot of work was done to get us here. So the police that may need a new job or the people that help pollute or construct the world of slavery could be put to work doing the exact opposite. That could keep everyone busy probably for another good 100 years to make heaven where they've made hell, just by what they do on a daily basis and getting paid. I mean, people in Japan used to get paid in rice, right? People in other parts of the world used to get paid in whatever they used to get paid in. It wasn't always, pieces of paper that could be printed in someone's basement and that only have value because someone keeps telling you it has value. Maybe there could be something there where people get paid in something that is of real value instead of something that's of perceived value.
Well, yeah, we could. We've got all the mechanisms there to do it. I mean, imagine if the army was used to heal the world. You arrest all these prime ministers and politicians and use all of their incredible billions and millions of dollars to refund all the people and all the homes they've destroyed. But the army, I mean, if you put the army to work healing the world with the equipment and the resources they've got, the world armies, you could build an incredible world in about a year with the resources these people have got. But they use all those resources to destroy the world. So, it's just getting some focus, brother, getting our focus in the right direction and healing things. We have all the things there to do it. The only thing that gets in the way is government. It's incredible. Government, they create all the problems. Every problem that exists because it's legislated to exist. And all the trouble that we have trying to fix these problems, all the red tape we've got to climb through, it digs to people, really, when you look at the situation we're in. It's so contrived and it's so obviously contrived. And the only people who benefit from it are the politicians. So the resources we need to fix everything. All you got to do is get the focus that we need to put those resources into the right direction.
So, I do agree with him that if, perhaps, well, what do you think of this? This is a question I've been meaning to ask you. Obviously you study tertiaria or alternative histories, where we've come from maybe over the last couple of 100 years, what's been put forth as real and what's probably not real. If you look at all the sources, you can probably figure out, the official story is full of more holes than, a bologna sandwich, obviously, or a Swiss cheese bologna sandwich. What do you feel in relation to re-educating the people on their real history, let's say a proper history, a history of what schools are, and then maybe allowing them to step up from there instead of, maybe getting around indirectly. Like if you tell someone the virus isn't real, half the people will believe you, half the people want to punch you in the nose. Maybe by going to the source of the information, and laying some light on that, you can help people through their own intelligence, like you said, getting back to their heart, figure out for themselves. Maybe that's the best way. I know I've had a hard time listening to people and everything. I've finally figured out in my life, I've more or less, even though lots of people have given me advice, I know what's been strong for me is whatever I figured out for myself and then acted upon.
That's why I've always tried to encourage people to ask questions in the radio shows. I very, very rarely come in blank statements and say it's just encouraging people to ask the questions, because I think you can't tell people the truth. They won't believe you. They cover it. Said it's from that little light bulb moment that you had yourself. People may have given you information, but ultimately you had that light bulb moment. Yeah, it's huge. It would really change things, but a lot of people simply can't believe it. And we're going to see more of that at the moment. We're going to see more of that in the next year or so. Like, as people we've spent like 10 years or 20 years going down this rabbit hole and figuring all this stuff out. A lot of these people are going to have this 5-minute red pill moment where their whole life is going to implode and it's just going to completely freak them out. And I'm already seeing that with people now, like, woken up to the fact that this is the whole thing's a scam. But he's only woken up this year, like in January. He just woke up to the fact that the government was lying. Before then, he believed better, and they went to have a meeting with the government, with a council member, to tell them all their fines. And he was amazed that the council member didn't. And he realised that, yes, John, they do. See, and he's kind of freaked out that the world is far more controlled and evil than even he ever thought it was, because he's only woken up in January. And it's taken him like from now to Jan. It's like 10. And he's had a hard time at the time. And to see a huge amount of so much of our society in the next year, and it's important to provide some sort of a safety for these doubt about all this. We can use this as an opportunity to move ourselves into a new direction. So
what's this fellow doing, right? How is he?
That's the freaky part, though, is the shock that people are going. You what?
I'm just wondering, what's this fellow doing? How is he reacting to finding out, that everything he thought was trying to help him, let's say, is doing the opposite?
Well, it's kind of freaked him out a little bit. The just how deep the corruption goes and how controlled the world is. I think it's kind of really fun. It's just a normal, straight funeral director, So he's just figured out that, yeah, the government isn't your friend. They've planned all this. They know what they're doing. This is genocide. They're not making mistakes through all this. They've planned all this. It's kind of difficult for him to really come to terms with that, I think. But that's, like I said, this is a guy that's taken like 6 or 10 months to go through that, and it's kind of freaked him out. People that are going to go through it in 5 minutes, they're just going to melt down. They're going to melt down, and that's going to be one of the most difficult things we see in this society. You're going to have people that are just completely freaked out, that start breaking things, and it's going to be that's the kind of a moment that we've got to watch out for, when those people that we're trying to help become everybody's enemies, including their own, just because of their psychic meltdown or their psychological meltdown that they have. And a lot of people are going to go through this. So I think that's something we have to watch out for.
What do you do with that then? Like I am starting to see that little bits here and there. I personally think, as I've said, you and I studied Tartaria, and, we saw all the booby hatches, so to speak, or all the sanitariums that they had at the time, the turn of the century, all the orphan schools and sanitariums. There seemed to be one in every block. I grew up in Toronto, and I saw some of the old ones, and they were like spooky as hell, those buildings. They looked like, the haunted horror mausoleums of the crazy movies I used to watch, in my teen years. And obviously that wasn't there to help them. When they had their breakdowns, they were pretty much locked away until they died. What do you feel is possible maybe to do the opposite of that? If, let's say half the people in your neighborhood start to go crazy, how would someone react and act and assist in something like that?
Well, you've got to be able to, you've got to have a place to retreat to, brother. You want to be riding this wave as much as you can. You need to be able to back away, take shelter, and hopefully come out the other side, weather the storm. This is why I'm telling people, get a good food supply, get out of the cities. If you have any possible way of getting out of the city, get out of the city, get yourself in a place where you're reasonably self-sufficient, where you are prepared to be able to weather the storm for the next 2 or 3 years. And that's unfortunately the way it's going to be. I mean, we can be out there doing what we can, but if it gets to a point where the wave just overtakes you, well, you need that little, pocket of air to be able to breathe, to be able to get through it. And that's just the way it is. We can only do what we can for so long, if it's going to get to that point. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do take it to that point. I mean, they can shut down communications, like they've just done that dry run in Victoria the other day. They can do all sorts of stuff. So there may be that moment where you're just going to have to look out for yourself. We can do what we can to help humanity, but ultimately, we've tried to show them the doorway. It's up to them to walk through. This is a personal, spiritual, soul choice for every single individual on this earth. And there may come a time where you've simply got to back away and let things take their course,
I would agree. Maybe this takes us back to another question I had. Why did you, or how did you come up with the original name, from your website and what you shared from the Crow House? Where did that come from, and how is that related, let's say, to what's going on today, if it is?
Well, I used to, when I started the Crow House, I was in a game clan, and I used to play online games with my son, because it was the only way I could see my son. And my clan name was Scarecrow. And so we started the Crow House to put the artwork on from the game that I was playing in. And it mainly was just artwork and 3D stuff that I was doing for the game. And then I felt kind of weird that I had a website and I didn't have any truth on there. And I thought I need to start putting some truth on there. But it just started off as an art site, and that's where the Crow House came from. Interesting, crows kind of started following me around there and kind of picked me as my totem, you know. I see crows everywhere, and crows would guide me everywhere. Then I started looking into crow magic and all sorts of stuff, and said, oh, this is really interesting that the crow kind of picked me as a totem, you know. And yeah, but that's how it all started. It was nothing to do with truth, nothing to do with crowing the truth or anything like that. It was just to do with a game clan and artwork. And interesting, the game clan that I was in was called the Alliance of Defiance, and that's where the AOD came from. And I kind of thought that was interesting, so I kept that. So every film that I've ever made has been an AOD production, like an Alliance of Defiance production. Nothing to do with truth. My son actually gave me the name Scarecrow, and yeah, that's where the site came from.
Cool, because some of the original videos you had up there, I've had trouble finding a few. I've been looking through your site again recently. I forget there was a young fellow that had a video originally up there. I haven't been able to find it from way back when you first started. Along with Drifting, that music, which you also put me in touch with. That was an amazing song and still is, very inspirational. I go back to that every now and again, 14 years later, you came up with it by accident. Your son gave it to you, and here you are, following Crow Totem and Crow Magic to sharing with people what's possible for them, let's say, in an alternative way of being alive. I would say, I guess you've lived the fact your imagination led you here.
Well, yeah. I mean, I realized long ago that life is an having conversations with reality kind of helped shape my life. And with the Crow House, I mean, yeah, it's just a portal that I've had there. I've never had to subscribe, cover themselves, because I think that's the key to the whole thing. That's what's led us to this point, is a lack of knowledge of ourselves. And that's what everything, this system and education system and everything has done, is just to lead us away from ourselves and get us dependent upon this thing that we think we are, or this thing that society is, and to measure ourselves according to parameters that are given to us by society. And we never really find ourselves. And that's the reason for the whole problem, this loss of self. So that's what I've tried to do with the website. And that's what I've tried to do with everything I've done. It's just help people discover themselves, because I need you to discover yourself so I can be free, because I can't be free until everybody's free, because there's really only one self, so that's what I've tried to do with the whole thing. It's just and I've done it because it needs to be done. It isn't because I enjoy it. I mean, you don't step onto the path of being a dissident as a career move, it's not exactly a career choice. I've sacrificed a lot of my life, sat here on the computer, and I think it's helped people, and I've seen positive responses in people's lives because of it. So ultimately, it's been all worthwhile. But it's strange how it happened. It's nothing that I ever planned to do. I just kind of did it because it needed to be done. But even when I look at the whole, through the game clan and through the creation of the website and through the life skills that I managed to pick up along the way that I could never figure out what they were all for, everything's led to this point, and it's all been for a reason. And so what can I say?
No, I hear you, and I follow through with what you're saying, and I've had a similar path, and it's why I've been watching what you've done for so long, and I've even seen that you started the Crow House video channel again. I've seen a few things up there, which is great to see. Some things coming out, and I've noticed you've been doing a lot more content recently, and maybe you're feeling like I'm feeling, that if not you, who, and if not now, when it's time to stand up and share what you feel is the truth for people, and allow them to perhaps pick up what they need to for themselves, so that help your brothers and sisters wake up as possible in what they need to do, through what they need to do, from what has worked and what hasn't for you.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about, brother. I mean, just try to help people discover their own individuality and rediscover themselves. It's a remembering, it's what I've tried to say to people. If you really think, you can remember all this stuff. That's why a lot of people say to me, well, when you say things, it's like I already knew that and you were just reminding me. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point. That's what I'm trying to do. Just help you remember, wake you up out of this sleep, this daze that you're in, because it's like people are living in a dream, and they've forgotten what the real world is. They've forgotten what they are. And they're living in this dream that's been, inculcated by the TV in their minds, and They're not in reality anymore. They're lost in their mind, and they're lost in this dream, and they've forgotten who and what they are. And that is the whole crux of the problem that we're facing here, is this loss of knowledge of who and what we are, this belief that we have rulers, this belief in the matrix, the system, which is just this thing that exists on paper. It's just an idea. This whole control grid is just an idea. Why do we go along with it? It's just an idea that you don't have power. This idea that there's people that control you. This idea that authority is real. It's just an idea. But that's what school's about, teaching you this idea is real, teaching you to comply, teaching you to respect authority. That's what it's all for, to lead you away from discovering anything but yourself. So, yeah, that's what I've tried to do with the whole thing. And that's the way out. It's so simple. It'd be so simple to change the world. We could change it in a day, where people can't see the forest for the trees because they don't believe they have any power. They believe they're just a little person or whatever. More than a day. It's really that simple.
Pretty much, I would say, from day one, from Bottom's day to today, I've had to learn that I'm more powerful than they ever taught me. If I plug into my own imagination and my own awareness and my own love, I can make anything real. Sure, there's challenges and there's times you fail and there's times you get shit on your face, or you bruise your knees or you scrape yourself or you get cuts. But that's without challenges, you don't grow, right? Without the potential of failure, there can't be a success. And I think through these days, when there's the ultimate chance of falling into a vaccinated pit of hell, there's also the opposite, that you can soar up to a lovely world of heavenly reality for yourself, your brothers, your sisters, and everyone around you. You just got to grow a pair, I would think. If you're a man, anyways.
It sure will be a vaccinated pit of hell, brother, if they manage to lead people into it. But they're only doing that because people's fear of death, I think this is like an exam. This life is like an exam. It's only a brief experience, and it's the what comes after it that is important. And I think it's the decisions that you make here. Can they lead you into the mainframe? Can they get you to sell your soul and give away your soul? Because every time you comply, every time you give them an inch and you do something that is morally wrong and goes against what you are, you've given away a little bit of your soul every time you do that. So, how much of that can they get from you? That's what this is about. And I'm prepared to, no, I won't take it. You'll have to kill me. That's the way it goes. I have no fear of death. I'm not going to give you my soul in order to stay alive in this. This is a temporary reality. It's a temporary existence. I'm not going to stay alive forever. So why on earth would I give you an inch? Why? Well, because I want a little bit more of this 3D reality or whatever it is, No, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna leave here eventually. So I'm gonna leave here on my own terms, and I'm gonna leave here whole, with my soul intact. That's what I'm gonna do, So I think it's a test. It's an exam, really. When you look at life and realize just how short the experience is. Yeah, there's a lot more to it than compliance, and there's a lot more to it than just this existence. There's a lot that comes after this, and I think that this is where your worth is discovered. Whether you will bend over and comply or not. So yeah, I think it's an important choice for people to make.
I like the way you've put it. I also like the way things.
And they need as like a prelude to their real life. Yeah.
I mean, I like the fact that there's a challenge. I mean, even this video recording's been a challenge. We've been jumping back and forth as far as the connection goes. And, part of me goes, maybe I should stop and we should do it again. On the other hand, all the information that's been flowing, through the hiccups has been amazing and helpful for me. And I strongly feel it'll be helpful for the viewers that, take this away and go through it. So, in some ways it's become metafictional. They may have to pay attention. They may have to listen a little harder. They may have to wait through the hiccups. They may have to be patient, through the freezings and unfreezings. But I've noticed after the freezings, Max's voice has sped up and we haven't lost anything. All the information's come a little faster or a little slower. So perhaps in some ways, Spirit's been with us in the middle of this conversation of things that have moved up, down, and sideways. Time is sped up. It felt like it slowed down. But in the end, the information came around too. I would say discovering your worth. I would feel that, whenever I've done these chats, well, this is only the second one I've done with Max, but it seems like the title comes after the fact. Maybe that's what life is for, right? It's after the fact. After you've been through the challenges, you'll figure out, your life story. It's not before, it's living it and seeing where it takes you. And then when you get to the end, perhaps then why you had the journey. And I appreciate your time with me with this, Max. Maybe we've come to the end of this one. Discover your worth. I mean, what better advice can you give someone?
Well, yeah, thank you, brother. Thanks for having me on. And anybody who wants to check out my work and go to the crowhouse.com.
Yeah, please send me maybe a bit of information. I'll put it below. There's been some hiccups in getting that, even what you've said now, the crowhouse.com is an obvious one. I would like our viewers to continue to follow you and see what you have to say. I would love to do perhaps another video down the road strictly on aliens. Maybe we'll focus on that one day. We'll just go way out of the box and see where it takes us. We can put all the craziness down and see. I've got some ideas and some experiences too that I didn't bring up in this conversation. And who knows where that will go. Like I said, I see a little alien head, it looks like, in the background there up on top of one of your pictures as well. I could be seeing it wrong, but it looks like one of those pictures up there on the back in the red on the top of your ceiling could be, it looks like a gray face, or maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah, it's an ice bucket.
It's an ice bucket.
Yeah. Alien ice bucket.
Ah, interesting. Ah, great. So we've come full circle back to the alien ice bucket. I love it. You just never know where things are going to take you. Max, thank you so much for being here. Oh, I appreciate it. Now we can see things more clearly. Ah, the alien ice bucket. Yeah. I can't believe it. Yeah. It's an alien ice bucket, little gray head. That's pretty funny. Do you still use it to keep ice?
No, it just sits there. It's just part of the place now. It just sits up there on the shelf. It's been there for 8 years.
Cool. Well, I've had some good experiences. I'd like to do some more further explorations if you're into it, whether it's with aliens or other things down the road. Thanks again, Max. I'll put a link below. As a way out of this, I'll recommend to Max and maybe anyone that's listening, there's a new video out by Kyron Last called No Masters. Just came out yesterday, the day before. Highly recommend it. It goes into the esoteric meaning of life in its way, and it talks in great detail and with a lot of quotes and great information. A lot of what we've chatted about here in an intelligent, useful, and fashion that makes you think. That's for sure. And I don't know if you've seen any of Kyron Last videos, Max, but I highly recommend them. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, brother. I'll check them out.
I'll get you a link once we're up and live. If you have any questions or suggestions or anything you want to share, please send me an email. And if not, let's do this again as soon as it works out and we're feeling groovy about sharing more together.
No worries, brother. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Can't make me lie to my heart. No one tells me where I should start. Freedom first is what I say. Nothing now gonna get in my way.